Hi everyone, it's Maddie Brady. We're here to get real about mental health. Stay tuned for some great conversations with some very special guests. Welcome to Get Real. Thank you, Oakley, for these sunglasses. We are here with Ryan, also known as Mini Sans, and we actually lived together once.
Praise Jah, we did live together right before the pandemic. Amazing time, great time. Rumor mill, we shared a bed for a little while. Just want to kind of break those rumors down. Not true. We did not share a bed.
But our toes basically touched.
We did
They
do
really
this
did.
a couple times. You guys could see.
If you slid down on the pillow, your toes were touching.
Yeah. The two beds, you couldn't walk between them because we would curl our toes together like this. Like a Chinese finger trap. So,
Yes.
yeah,
And our beds
time.
were also like in the window. That was my idea. I was like, yeah, let's just like put the beds in the window.
Which is great. I got sunburnt every
yeah.
morning. The neighbors could see our toes intertwined.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a good time.
But then you left during pandemic. I was just in there. And there was a guy that lived across the street, like across from the window. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have put the bed in the window.
Yeah,
I regretted
it's
it.
It's high risk, high reward with the
Yeah.
window situation for sure. Good lighting, possible pedos.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
A
gotta.
little bit of both.
Yeah,
There's
a
a
little
give
bit of
or
both.
take in life, you know?
Yeah. Good times, good memes,
But
good memes.
we also are from, well, kind of from the same hometown.
That we are. Ocean City, fun place to be.
So how did you end up, so you didn't start in Ocean City, but you got there.
No. So,
How'd you end up there?
for the folks at home, here comes a nice little biography for you. I grew up in Secaucus, New Jersey, which is right across the water here from New York City. Moved to North Wildwood, which is about 3 hours south in South Jersey, in 4th grade. Did a year in North Wildwood, then moved to Wildwood Crest. Was there all through middle school, and then moved to Ocean City in high school. And that was mainly around my mother's life choices, a little bit around surfing. That became a huge part of me and my brother's life, and yeah, that's how we all ended up interconnecting a little bit here.
And you were on a TV show when you were younger, weren't you?
We're digging deep into the Renaissance Wikipedia page here. Yes, so my freshman year of high school, I was on a TV show, School of Surf. It was on MTV2, Monday mornings at 10 a.m., so literally none of the target audience watched the show because they were all in school. But yeah, it was pretty cool. We had an MTV crew follow us around, I think for like a month or so. Mm-hmm. Whether we were surfing, we went to a few concerts, we went to like parties, and they would like come and film it. It was a super weird experience, but also a super cool experience, for sure.
What's MTV2?
So it's essentially Dollar Tree MTV.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, is that like...
So back in the pre-streaming days, for all the young folks out there, we had a thing called cable, and you would pay your cable company X amount of dollars per month, and you'd get X amount of channels. MTV, the OG good MTV, which aired The Jersey Shore, the greatest television series of all time. I believe that was channel 69 or 70 or 72.
69.
Yes.
Yeah.
MTV2 got Snickle Fritz, and it was like 142.
Oh,
channel
wow.
142. So yeah, not only could you not see it due to the time, you couldn't see it because it was on a weird channel. But yeah, it was fun.
Okay, you were still on TV.
I did get called out
once.
Once I was playing soccer at the Ocean City soccer fields. This is like 10 years later. Mm-hmm. And some dude was like, yo, weren't you on School of Surf back in the day? And I started crying. We hugged. And I was like, thank you for finally noticing me.
That's a beautiful moment, honestly. Yeah. That's great.
Top tier. One of my highlights for sure.
That's beautiful. And then, so how did your music career start?
Yeah, I've talked about surfing the whole time, you would think that was my bread and butter.
You do it all.
Yeah, so for those of you watching, I'm a music producer, a little bit of a DJ when I can. That kind of came about when I was like 17 or 18. But full story, I've always been a big music person, big music head. Probably when I was like 11 or 12 is when I really discovered that I thought it was something interesting, something cool I didn't understand. I remember buying my first ever CD. It was a Talib Kweli CD, big rep Talib Kweli. I was in 6th grade. Me and my best friend Zach like brought it home, played it all day, played it for weeks. We thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then as I got a little older, I wanted to get more into like investigative, like who are these people? What do they do? How do they do it? And going into high school, in kind of parallel with my surfing, I started noticing a lot of surf videos, skate videos, snowboard videos had like incredible music that I've never heard before. Weird electronic stuff, weird ambient stuff. And then I just ended up down a rabbit hole, finding new artists, finding new music, YouTube channels, blogs. And then eventually I was like, I want to do it myself. And that was probably 17 or so when I bought my own equipment.
Yeah.
I wanted to try to actually make my own sounds and stuff.
That's great. I remember seeing your Mr. OCHS performance, and I feel like...
Dude, we're really airing out the laundry here.
The star was born. My aunt was obsessed with your performance to the point where we had to watch it at like every family function, in fact.
Dude.
But I've seen it lots.
So I have a little bit of beef with OCHS for this reason, because I get approached about my Mr. OCHS performance pretty consistently. For those who don't know, Mr. OCHS is like a fashion show, dance show, almost like a reality.
Pageant.
Yeah, it's a pageant.
For guys.
Yeah, I tried to use all the synonyms. It's a pageant.
You're like, there's talent, there's
you
there's
have
fitness.
different sections.
Yeah, almost like a pageant.
So I got signed up the day before. Somebody dropped out, and our Spanish teacher, who I loved, was like, could you do it? And I was like, yeah, for sure. People come up to me all the time like, yo, you crushed it. But I got 3rd.
Sometimes that happens.
The mathin'. It's not adding up.
Sometimes that happens, honestly. Like, you just get robbed, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like, maybe the judges were just intimidated by your star power.
I was shaking ass. Are we
Yeah.
allowed to? Yeah, I was shaking ass.
Maybe it was a little too inappropriate. Like, we come from a small town. They're like, this
I was ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I was ahead of the curve.
They thought it was a little too inappropriate.
Shout out Mike Ray's uncle, I believe it was, who I kind of grinded on as I came through the aisle during my dance performance. Shout out Mike Ray's uncle. Sorry about that, buddy.
That might have been it. It might have been Mike Ray's uncle why you didn't win. They were like, we can't have this guy win after he grinded on not only someone, but a man, nonetheless.
Non-consent. That was the whole thing. It was non-consensual. Yeah. So points immediately docked.
Yeah,
I
can see that. Okay. So first we had the trauma from the 3rd place. And then you knew after that a music career was born. And then how did you get into the DJing?
So it kind of does coalesce a little bit. So I had this thing in high school. I would get home from school, and like I said, I would go down the rabbit hole of YouTube, every single music blog, and just trying to find cool music, new music, things I've never heard, things I 100% knew my friends had never heard. And I got so much satisfaction in sending these things out to my friends, like, yo, you should check this out. Yo, you should listen to this. And DJing for me, I never knew what it was. I never thought of it how, like, if you go to a show, you see a DJ, or you go to even like a wedding and there's a DJ. I never thought of it as a performance. For me, it was a way for me to play new, cool music to my friends at parties. Like, we would have house parties. And it was just a way for me to play music for my friends.
Yeah.
So that's how that kind of started. I was just the hipster boy. I was like, hey, like, this is my way to kind of treat you guys to something a little different. And I still hold on to that mentality a little bit. Since then, it's evolved. Now, being that I write music myself, it's my way of performing. but I still hold the mentality. It's just my way of treating people to something different or something new I find on the internet.
Mm-hmm. And did you get backlash in the beginning when you decided that that was something you actually wanted to take from, hey, I'm just treating you guys music, to I'm going to take this a bit more seriously?
So I don't think backlash is the word. When I first started writing music and DJing, we'll say when I was like 17, 18, I was a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call it backlash. Nobody knew what I was talking about, or like nobody knew what I was doing. And so I would show people music that I'd write, and they'd be like, "Oh, this is cool, but this isn't what I listen to."
Mm-hmm.
Or like there was no sensibility, there's no shared space there. And then DJing was very similar in the sense where if I wanted to DJ something or I did DJ something, at that time it was still a fringe thing in like overall culture, like pop culture, but especially where we're from, if you were doing music, you were in a band. If you were doing music, you were a singer, guitar player, bassist, drummer. You weren't a DJ. That was something that you saw at your school dance. That was something you saw if you went to a nightclub or a bar. And the way I wanted to present my information just didn't make sense to people. Mm-hmm. And honestly, sometimes it didn't fully make sense to me, but it felt right. Like I knew it was cool. I knew it was different, and I had a good time, which was the most important part.
So you really just felt like you were following your passion. And did you not really even have a plan with where you wanted to go with it? You just started going?
Yeah, it was just an innocent thing. Like, it was just fun. Like, not to sound cliche and corny, but I would literally go home from school. My setup was on my mom's desktop computer, our shared computer in our living room. Probably drove her nuts. She was super nice and said everything I made was cool, but it had to drive her nuts. She would go home, and I would just always be playing music, writing music, practicing DJing to nobody. You know what I mean? And I would do it for hours. So there was no plan. I never thought about releasing music. I never really thought about DJing to like a larger population. It was just like going to soccer practice or painting a picture in your free time or drawing in your notebook, journaling. It was just something I did. And I would say there's still a sensibility today where I try to be better at kind of capturing that more. And I'm not as good as I was. It's not as natural now, but.
So then with the actual music production, did that stem off the DJing, or was it kind of going on coinciding?
DJing came first, or excuse me, writing music came first.
Okay.
My obsession was with the music that I saw in a bunch of surf videos. Modern Collective, shout out Modern Collective, the best surf video in the history of surfing. I thought it had an incredible, insane electronic music soundtrack, and in my head I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be the guy that is getting music into a surf video that sounds like this. And so I tried writing music that sounded like that, and eventually when I got into later years of high school, college, that's when DJing, I started to notice that would be my medium of showing people my music. I kind of had a weird point in my development. A little more backstory on myself. So, went to Ocean City High School, was DJing a little bit, high school parties, DJ'd a couple like clubs in Atlantic City.
Boat parties.
Yeah, a couple boat parties, the best. Still my favorite type of party. And then I went to East Carolina University my freshman year of college, which, if you know me or how I'm talking about my story, that's totally a divergent thing. But I wanted to try something new. I wanted to test myself. I wanted to see if the things that I liked are actually the things that I like. And that's another time where I started to have a lot of resistance with what I did. Because not only like Ocean City, we're an hour from Philadelphia, we're 2.5 hours from New York City. So there is a little bit of like a filtration of different cultures, especially musically and in terms of art. East Carolina's in Greenville, North Carolina. Like, I was an absolute crazy person trying to do the things I did. So I would say when it came to backlash and resistance, that was a place where I really started to feel it. Like, nobody had any idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Or, like, you walk by my dorm and you would hear the things that I was making, and they're like, dude, this kid is out of his mind.
That's not Blake Shelton.
Yeah, dude. Wagon wheel. I wasn't making wagon wheel. I'll tell you that much. I wasn't making wagon wheel.
No one was happy. So do you feel like that took a toll on your overall mental health or your confidence with what you were doing? Do you feel like you had to kind of go on an internal journey to be able to have the confidence to keep going?
Yes and no. At that point, there was still such a naive sensibility to it where I just didn't care. It just felt right, and I would just keep doing it, and I would keep writing, and I would keep experimenting. Because at that point, I wasn't focused on I wasn't focused on gaining fans. I wasn't focused on, like, people enjoying it. I just liked what I was doing.
Yeah.
In that 3-hour period, 2-hour period, 8-hour period, whatever it was when I was writing stuff, that's when I was having the most fun. And so the voices didn't matter too much. At that same time, kind of tail end of ECU, I then moved to San Diego. The intention started to switch. Some more friends of mine started to ask about my craft. More people kind of knew what I was doing. DJing and, like, electronic music started to have a little more of a moment. And because I was the guy kind of in our community that had that space, people were, like, hitting me up to, like, release stuff, make stuff, do work for them. That's when I started to get really intimidated, really, like, take into consideration people's judgment. Because then it's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's not me in my room playing with toy soldiers. It's now me out, like, in the battlefield. People have to watch this become a thing. And that was a really tough transition. And that's when people's criticism started to get real.
So what did that do to you? Did it discourage you? Did it make you ever feel like you wanted to give up along the journey?
I feel like a crazy person every single day when it comes to my art. So yeah, at that point, when people started to take me more seriously, I started to take myself more seriously. So I would try to reach out to producers I really liked. I would try to do, like, remix competitions, anything where I could learn the craft, anything I could kind of get my notoriety out. And it was all, like, emails not getting returned, losing contests, people being very critical of my work. More so in hindsight, it was me thinking they were being very critical because I was very sensitive and invested in my product. So yeah, that's when things started to get a little tougher. So there was a brief moment that I stopped writing music, stopped DJing. I was probably at that point 21, 22, and I fully dropped it for probably like 3-4 years. I still kind of like wrote it in my free time. Like, I sold a bunch of my equipment, and I would still jam on my computer in my free time a little bit and show, like, a couple of friends some stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what it was before. Like, I would work on music virtually every day, every couple days.
So what made you get back into it?
Yeah, so this is a complicated question. It was a little before the pandemic, so if we're kind of following the timeline here, couple months before the pandemic, and I just took note that I was still working on music, and it was the one thing in my life that was pretty consistent. Even surfing, like when I went to East Carolina, I didn't really surf. I missed it, but I didn't really surf. Moved to San Diego. I'm at the beach. You would think that would consume my life. I didn't really surf that much. Living at home, again, we're at the beach, didn't really surf that much. Other interests, whether it was soccer, my job, those things always fluctuated. This was something that I could tell was consistent. I also was looking for not a sense of purpose, but just something I could look forward to every day. Something that I knew, whether I was, at the time 24 or 48, I can wake up and be like, oh, this is cool and this is mine. I'm not working for somebody else. I'm not creating their vision. I'm creating mine. So yeah, I was probably 24, 25, the winter before the pandemic, and I was like, let's give it a go. Let's try it again. And I had my first song kind of ready to go. It was called Dancing in Daydreams, which, in my opinion, kind of sets the stage for the rest of my music, the rest of what I do. So yeah.
I love that song too.
Oh, thank you.
I still play it. Like, I literally made my office play it. Like, the office I work in today.
Dude.
Everywhere I go, that song.
Dude, that's so sick.
Yeah, and all honestly, like, I've listened to your other songs, and not that I don't like them, but that's the one that I'm like, you'll throw on. And then I'm like, I know this guy.
Even to this day, I honestly think, I hate to say it. I mean, what do you mean I hate to say it? I'm talking about myself. I think that song encompasses the direction the most, the sound the most, what I want people to feel and see. Like, I love doing the visual parts the most.
That's why, like, it really makes you feel something. Like, it makes you want to be like, yeah, I'm going out and doing my dreams.
Yeah.
And it's just a really good vibe. But I feel like I can completely relate to what you're saying, where you have something, you kind of step back, and it just never goes away. That's something, I mean, with this kind of stuff, I knew that I wanted to do more. I knew that I wanted to do something about mental health. I've always liked podcasting and performing and this and that, and it's a constant that just never went away. And then I feel like at one point I was like, all right, time to like go to the real world. And then it's like, there is no reason for that. You can still continue to keep working on your dreams. I think it's a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, at a point, I think I thought, okay, it's just not in the cards for me. And you realize that you can make it. Like, you're making your own deck. You can make it in the cards for you. And nobody else is just going to come discover you and be like, oh, I saw you do music 5 years ago. Do you want to come to California? It's like, you have to make the decision that, like, yeah, I'm not the biggest right now, but I'm going to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And eventually it will work out. And in the end, if it doesn't, I did something that I loved.
I think something that gets missed too, like if you listen to podcasts or any informational stuff, people make it sound like things like imposter syndrome goes away. And I don't think it, I don't want to say I plan, but I don't expect it to ever really go away. I think partly it's like, if you respect what you do, you respect your craft, and like, you're invested in it, you almost will never feel worthy of it because you have that sensibility, that feeling for it. So that's one thing I think a lot of people need to, that I struggle with still, and I don't ever expect myself not to struggle with. I would assume you have the same thing.
Yeah. I still struggle with it 100%. Every time I go to do this, every time we normally shoot for a whole weekend, I'm planning the weekend, every single time I feel like, what am I doing? Like, am I really doing this?
How much do you think about it beforehand? Like, if, say, you have to interview a bunch of people or a couple people, like, for me, like, I'm playing a DJ set April 20th. The minute somebody asks me to do a set, or the minute someone wants to get involved with me with a project, I'm thinking about it almost the entire time leading up to it, like, in some capacity.
So I try not to think about it.
Dude,
I will, like, I'll be thinking about it in the sense that, okay, I'm kind of stressed. Well, I think what helps me is the stress of the fact that I do so many people in the one weekend. I used to do, like, a little event planning at one point, and having all those moving parts and trying to get it all together, I'm, like, so stressed out and here, there, everywhere, trying to make 7 episodes happen in one day and trying to get everything together that I almost do it on purpose so that my brain's moving a mile a minute and I don't think about it.
God bless you. I am the worst. The minute I hear I have to perform, I think about that performance coming up nonstop.
Yeah.
I hear a song on the radio. I'm like, dude, I should play that. Like Shazam, boom.
Well,
or I should play this with this.
I'll think, like, yeah, I'll be, like, in the shower on a run or something. Like, oh, I gotta say this. Or, like, when this person comes on, I gotta bring up this. So I guess I do think about it a lot, but the bouts of imposter syndrome's more so, I feel like, almost when I'm releasing an episode. Or, like, this right now doesn't feel all too bad. Or it's like the reality hasn't sunk in. But then when the episode goes out, I'm like, this is crazy, you know?
Not to swing it around, but another question in the same vein. Do you listen to your podcast after you put it on the internet?
So when I was doing it before in Philly, I would not listen to them at all. I listened to like 1, maybe 2. I was like, no, I can't do this. But now I do only because I want to improve. Where even the first couple episodes, I noticed I kept saying, and I kept saying yeah every 2 seconds, like just nodding my head with the yeah. And I feel like if I didn't go back and watch it, I wouldn't be able to improve, but I don't like watching them back because then I'll incessantly, this is where I think about it a lot, I'll pinpoint that one mistake and then just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said yeah 14 times, and then just watch it again, and then it's just ringing in my ear over and over and over again, and other people might not even notice it as much, but I just can't stop thinking about it.
That is the perfect segue, I think, for me when it comes to music, where any 99% of people that do music, the arts, whatever, I feel like can empathize with this, where most of the music that I write, I don't release because any small detail, I'm critiquing it all day, every day. Need to fix it, need to make it better, whatever. And for me, I've gotten better at kind of eliminating that mentality. But when it comes to releasing stuff, which for me would be the same as like you putting the podcast on the internet, in the lead up, like when I'm working on music, I'll listen to it a million times. Being overcritical, or I write music that I like. So like if I want to feel a certain way, I'll put on music that I like sometimes. But once it gets released, 0 shot I put it on again. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's just, for me, even though I'm not a singer, it's kind of like listening to yourself talk. Like, almost 0 shot I listen to this podcast after it gets released, because whatever, we're at 30 minutes of me talking, like, I can't do it. But that's how I feel about my music a lot of times. Love it before it's released. Afterwards, no chance. No chance.
That's very interesting. I feel like once the initial night, I'll watch it, and then I'm kind of done. I'm not going back.
Big one and done gal.
Yeah.
One and done.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it, and then that's it. Because, yeah, you can just torture yourself.
Yeah, that was me through college and, like, leading up to the period where I quit music. Like, especially in the age we live in, like, all you see is people doing tutorial videos. Like, you need to do this to do this. You need to get better at this. The only way this looks good or sounds good is if you put this. And I was the type of guy to go down those rabbit holes. And I was like, there's no way this is good because I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know if this applies. So, yeah, I would be incredibly overtly critical.
That's one thing I don't do is the tutorials. I'm not a big, at least for this, I'm not a big prep person because this is get real.
Which is good. That's good.
So I want it to be real. So I dislike thinking about too much, like setting up the episode too much. I'm not trying to have every single thing we're going to talk about, every single thing, question that's going to be said. I like to have an overall theme. Okay, let's hit XYZ. Done. Let's go,
I think it's better too, there's the gray area between being someone else, I think, in the age that we live in, and learning. And I think people don't hit the mark as much as they should, where I think a lot of people try to base what they want to do off other people too much, and then you just end up being that other person. And I think it applies to music. I think it applies to podcasts. I think it applies to art, where you have so many copycats. I hate to say it, in like, especially the TikTok era, like it's essentially everyone is taking this singular trend. And it's fun, you're making it your own, but you're not making it your own. So yeah, I've gotten better at, like, if there's a problem that I'm trying to address with music, like, I'll look it up on YouTube, but less, this is what this person's doing, I need to do that to a T.
Yes.
And I think that applies to the craft itself and what you're doing on your journey. Where you can have some sort of structure, but at the end of the day, you have to make your own thing, or else it's not yours.
Yeah, you can take away small lessons from other people doing similar things, but if you just study them, then why are you even doing it if you're just going to be exactly the same as them?
Exactly.
Like, you're not going to... Sometimes the reason you're going to end up successful is because you're doing something different, because nobody needs another of the exact same thing. Nobody needs another DJ doing the exact same thing, or why would you have it? Like, you need to be doing something different to be of value in what you're doing.
And that's the scariest line in the whole thing, and the funnest part, and it's the part that kind of makes you feel like a crazy person about what you're doing, is knowing the fact that at the end of the day, no one else is really doing it that way. So, like, am I about to shit the bed? Or is this about to be something really cool? Am I onto something? So yeah, I respect you for not having the blueprint, I'll say that. A lot of other people do.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that takes the fun out of it.
I think that's just how I operate. Like, just start doing it, figure it out later. You know, you just got to start doing it.
Yeah.
But I think, too, a lot... You're going to, when you're doing something different, how you said, when you're doing it and you're thinking, okay, is this going to really hit or really not? If you're going to be an artist, if you're going to be doing a podcast, whatever you're doing that is something that you're putting yourself out there, you're going to have a lot of flops. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but you're at least going to have one, and it doesn't have to define your entire career. That it's okay to have something not hit. I mean, the biggest artists in the world have something not hit, but you just got to keep going.
I would say every single one of my songs are a not hit. So we were talking about Dancing in Daydreams, my first song, and when I first started releasing music again, I wanted to be good at not diving into the metrics of everything. I still do. I check Spotify for artists. I check my streaming. I check Instagram. It's really bad. I try not to. But I wanted to be way better at not paying attention to how many people listen to the music. And if I do, small standards, realistic standards. And so for that song, I remember when I first released it, I was like, dude, nobody knows I'm doing this. I'd be stoked. I think my goal was 1,000 streams over all platforms in 3 months. Something I thought was like very low, very achievable. And I think in that same time period, I hit like 20,000.
Wow.
And so I was like, because it was my first thing, I was like, oh, this is sick. You're actually doing it again. People like it. I'm not a crazy person, whatever. And then afterwards, got into my head, wanted to feed the machine, just put out as much stuff as possible, be quick with it. And then every song after that kind of wasn't hitting the marks that I wanted, wasn't hitting that original mark. And I think that was good for me a little bit. A little bit humbling, and also kind of taught me to kind of, same thing in the culture we live in, it's about putting out as much stuff as you can, as quick as you can. And the one thing that's cool about music is you can take your time and really make something cool, and in reality I think people appreciate that. So I've tried to be better at spacing things out and not caring about the numbers so much, just having fun with it. So
that's something I have to check with putting this stuff out. I'm constantly updating YouTube, like refreshing the page, the Instagram reels, the TikTok reels. There's so many different numbers to check. And there are times that certain videos hit pretty well, and then the next is like 20 views. And you just have to keep putting it out there in order to have another hit. Like, you can't give up from those.
But it's a shame.
Numbers.
This is me maybe being a little bit hipster, but I think it's a shame that we think about a hit being, like, for me, if a song had like 100,000 streams on Spotify, right? Like, I did something good there. But in reality, I could have 100,000 streams and like 100,000 people didn't really enjoy the song. They just kind of played it. But I could also have a song with 50,000 50 streams, and 50 people fucking love that song.
Yeah.
And like that, those 50 people are the people you want. Like that's small. It's a small number, but you're actually having an effect. And that's what I try to remind myself of more often. Like, your goal isn't to have a huge number. It's to have an impactful experience for people. Because in reality, circling back, like, that's what music was for me when I was 14. Like, I was the kid on the internet just scrolling for something to make me feel good at a time when I didn't feel good about a lot of things. And that was like my outlet. So, like, to bring it a little bit full circle, like, if I could have a song that just like one kid is like, this is my fucking jam, I'm gonna play this every single day when I get home from school, or even just play it once when he or she gets home from school, like, that's way sicker.
Yeah, that is true, and that's such a good point, that a lot of times, especially with TikTok and stuff like that, it's really just the algorithm. So the algorithm just picked it up. It might not even be that good of a video, and another clip could have really touched someone and resonated with someone and got them into treatment or got them the help they needed, which is wild to think about. And that video might be the one with 20 views.
I have this internal battle. You might also have the same thing because you work in podcasting, but there's so many podcasts, so much information out, and it's like, you as a consumer, you have to discern so much, like, what is fact, what is fiction, what is good, what is bad, and it's tough. And I think the same thing applies to art, where you're just fed through so much through an algorithm, and people are just trying to play the game of the algorithm, that there's not as much originality. I sound like such a hater and a hipster. I am not a hater. I am not a hipster. I enjoy everybody's craft, and I like so much. There's so much good shit, good music, whatever, out there in the world right now because of algorithms. But I do think a lot of people fall into the trap of virality a whole lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is a shame.
Do you feel like you love music so much because of that time period that it got you through? The fact that hobby and passion, old hobby, now full-time, that passion of yours comes from the fact that it helped you through your darkest days?
Yeah, it's two-part. I go through waves with it still, where, like, there'll be weeks where I'm working on a lot of stuff. I love what I'm doing. I'm passionate about it. I'm committed to it. And then there's weeks where, like, it falls out of favor a little bit. Especially now living in New York City. It's such a new, cool experience for me, where I want to spend a lot of time, like, learning about the city, making new friends, going to new places. You could argue it then, and helps with music and inspiration and connection. But so I do go in and out of favor with music, which I think is totally fine. I think that's a human experience. You do that with relationships. You do that with your family, your friends, other passions. I think that's fine. On kind of what we would say, like, mental health passion side, I do feel as though I owe a lot of myself to music. This is like, yeah, when I was in high school, middle school, like I don't want to say I had a lot of friends, but I was able to kind of find my place amongst everybody, like a little chameleon, because moving so much, my own personal space at home, like I kind of needed a way to be social and blend in. And sometimes it made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Like you don't know who's your friend, who's not your friend. Am I fitting in, whatever. So I had my own anxieties, own negative perceptions of myself. And music was the one thing at the end of the day where I was like, this is mine. This is fun. This makes me feel good. This is something nobody, turns out everybody fucking knows about it. But it felt like at the time, this was the thing that only I knew about. So to this day, I still have that mentality a little bit. I'm not as good about it. I'm not as zealous about it sometimes, but I definitely have it, and I definitely feel like I owe it to myself and almost owe it to the musical experience to like try to pursue it in some regard.
100%.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, it makes total sense.
Only partly a crazy person.
No, it makes total sense. And I thought it was really important to air this episode because sometimes when people think about mental health, they think of the super dramatic stories about, obviously I do a lot of sobriety episodes and episodes that are more clear cut around mental health. But at the end of the day, following your passions, being true to yourself, getting over imposter syndrome, these are all things that are tied into your mental health. I know how I said I kept looping back to wanting to do something more like a podcast, and I want to have my own merch and my own clothing line and this and that. Like when you're not following your passions is when your mental health starts to slide, because I feel like not truly being yourself is when mental health issues start to creep in, because you're not doing what you're meant to do. You're not doing your purpose.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough. I think, do I know this is my purpose? No. I think anyone that tells you, like, the thing that I'm doing, the thing I want to do, this is my purpose, on a personal level, I think they're kind of lying. There's always a level of ambiguity. There's always a level of questioning. There's so many options in this world to have. Like, it's fine if you question it, but at the end of the day, you just have to do it and just throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks. I forget. I had another thing I was going to add, but I totally just blanked on it.
That's okay. I think more so, like, when I say my purpose, I mean more so the purpose I made up for myself, because at the end of the day, the whole, oh, I have a purpose, it's all what we tell ourselves. Nobody's put here with, okay, this is your purpose, this is your destiny. It's all what we make for ourselves. I think just following our passions lead to what we think we're supposed to be doing, but I don't think we'll ever know. I mean, you could blow up, be the biggest star on earth one day, and at the end of the road, when it's time for you to go, was this really my purpose? You don't really have an answer ever.
And I think like the hardest part for me, in that same vein, is intent. Like trying to stay true to the intent of why you do something. It circles back to what I was talking about with like streaming numbers, views, likes, all that kind of stuff. You get lost in the why am I doing this? And people lose track of why you're doing it. And every time I remind myself I'm doing it because of the 2 hours in my room when I wrote the original idea for this song, that felt so good. Going back to that intent then helps with the rest of the project. And then you don't care about, if people are going to your shows as much, buying your merch, streaming your stuff. You realize this is still a good thing. Whether or not all the other metrics say otherwise.
Absolutely. I feel like at the end of the day, you can really only do what you feel like is best for yourself. And if you're trying to positively impact other people, whether you're doing that or not, as long as you're trying to get a positive message across, that's all you can really do at the end of the day.
Yeah, I also believe in people being very dynamic. Like, I'm funny as hell. Let everybody at home know that. So, like, I had a tough time. I still have a tough time where you think your personality, again, it aligns with purpose, but everything you're here for, your image, what people believe in you, of you, whatever, is tied to that thing. So, like, if my music sounds bad, if my shows are bad, if my merch is bad, if a record label doesn't email me back, you think of it as a hit on yourself, and it's a hit on your character, but you are, like, I'm a dynamic dude. I know I'm causing a lot of positivity in people's lives that isn't necessarily music. That's another thing that kind of keeps me going. Only if the folks at home heard the laughs that went down in this room like 47 minutes ago before the Ryan tangent started. But that's another thing. I think really just being on top of knowing who you are and not gauging your success, your worth off of the thing you're pursuing. At the end of the day, it's just a thing.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because I feel very similar where I have the whole sobriety that I try to promote a lot on my page. And really I only...
Big shout out being sober. That is sick.
Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you. But I promote it a ton on my page because the goal is to try to help someone out there struggling. In real life, I'm not constantly talking about that. Like, that's not all there is to me. And then I've struggled in the past, the fact that I am an athlete and do a lot of athletic stuff. And then I might dress super proper and dress up, and then other days I'm wearing like skeleton t-shirts, shout out Liquid Death, and
Big ups LD, big ups LD.
And I have felt like identity crises where I'm like, okay, like I love like tattoos and skulls and this and that, but then like I love to wear like a really pretty dress, and like social media makes you, because people try to brand themselves so much, makes you feel like you have to fall into one category and make your life all about one thing. But at the end of the day, the best people are dynamic people that have so many things going for them.
Total sidebar, this is why I want to give a big shout out New York, where you could literally be whoever you want, whenever you want, however you want. You might get roasted harder than anywhere else. Say you're on the train, someone's going to roast you, but at the end of the day, everyone's about that life. You could be and do what you want. So the fact that I hate to say it, at home, if I rolled around wearing corduroy pants with 90 different colors, 90 different patches, you would think I was a crazy person. And I was probably the swaggiest person on the train, and everyone respects the hustle.
100%.
You know, so I don't know.
That's why I love New York too, and that's why I want it to come here, because you do feel so limited at home. I feel like someone somewhere in my hometown at age 15 decided what was Maddie Brady and what wasn't. And then if I do anything out of the character of myself when I was a child, then it's like, whoa, what's going on here? That's not her. It's like, well, I was also like a teenager and I didn't grow up and I didn't like go through things and like find myself. And honestly, like when I was who I was back then, I didn't even know myself. I didn't find myself. Like I had my personality, but I didn't truly get to know myself where I got to be the most authentic version of myself. And then for the rest of your life, it feels like if you do anything off that path, you're going to get some backlash or some comments made, which is fine because at this point, I don't care. But in the beginning, it definitely does make you question, like, okay, is this me? Am I doing something weird? Is this right? Is this wrong? And I think it's a little bit hard in the beginning. In New York, you can be anyone.
The thing the government doesn't want you to know is life is just one big shit show of guess and check, where, like, you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to guess and I'm going to figure it out. A, and B, like, you are never the same person every single day. I am literally a different... This sounds like I got multiple personalities. But, like, you literally emotionally are a different person. Your interests change, like... Although I talked about music being, like, a consistent in my life, like, who I am at 28 looks very different than maybe you guys even knew me at 16 or 17. You know what I'm saying? So, just have fun with it. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Ryan. You are now watching the Disney Channel. Have fun with it. But yeah, since this is like a mental health focused podcast, just want to plug, shout out anyone that needs mental health assistance, help if they're feeling a certain way, feeling bad about themselves, questioning anything, or literally just need help with anything. I have been going to therapy for a year and a half now.
Amazing. We love a male that goes.
Yeah, how was that transition? You like that, bad boy? Nice little wrench there. This, to circle back, it has really helped my creativity. It's helped my music. I'm not going to say I wrote better stuff, but it helped me have better self-image, gave me a little more direction, gave me someone to feed information off of. You don't have to go into therapy with, in my opinion, any direct intention. When you go in there on the first day and you're like, hi, my name's Ryan, like first day of school vibes.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh my God, I thought this was a coffee shop.
Yeah, they ask you what you want, and I ended up giving this laundry list of things, and it's nice that you can attack every day how you want. But the main thing is, if you have the ability to go, I recommend going. If you don't have the ability to go, find a substitute, whether that's with a friend, family member, someone who's willing to listen. This person does not have to necessarily give you direct advice. Journaling is also something that I've taken up in my free time. But yeah, shout out my first therapist, Rosa, if you're listening. Big shout out, Rachel. You know you're my girl. I'll see you in 2 weeks on Tuesday.
No, that's great. And it's really needs to be more normalized that I think a lot of times people think they need to hit rock bottom or have this crazy thing happen to go to a therapist. You can just go and then figure it out when you're there. Like, every single person has been through something, has something they can work on. It's really beneficial to anyone.
So, yeah, for me, I knew I wanted to go really young, like, honestly, late high school, like, early college. I knew it was something that would be beneficial for myself. Social normativity, you kind of think that people are going to think you're a crazy person. You never really think you need to go. You're like, oh, I'll figure it out myself. Strap myself up by the bootstraps here and I'll figure it out. But I kind of equate it to building furniture, where, like, you have your plan in your head. You go through these things in your head. You think you're right. This is exactly how it's going to go. And then you actually say it out loud, which is therapy, and you realize, oh, maybe that wasn't the best method. Maybe there's another way to think about it, another way to treat myself, whatever. So anytime you can put this out in front of you, like a TV screen a little bit, and hear yourself, is a great opportunity. But yeah, when I go, it can be a shit show sometimes. We talk a little bit about everything. I've talked everything about my goals in life, relationships, suicidal ideation. Sometimes it's just philosophical debates, which is nice. And also, like, finding a therapist that fits your sensibilities. Love both of the ones that I've had. One was really about giving me homework. She loved giving homework, so it was beneficial because now I read a lot of things in relation to mental health, personal health, philosophy, whatever. My newest therapist is a little more, we're going to do the work in class. I like to call it class. And she's very direct, makes me actually open up more in our sessions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if anyone has an opportunity, take it. I said it again, I'm sorry.
I said I think I like number 2. I don't know how I feel about homework.
Homework is good. Homework is good because...
I know it's good long term.
Yeah, I was never... It's one thing to talk it up when you're there and get things out, but it's another thing to actually do the work at home and keeping yourself accountable. And most of what you do in life is muscle memory.
Yeah.
So to be able to find new language, which is a very important part of mental health and going to a therapist, is learning a whole new language. Being able to learn that language, learn new practices, I think is huge.
Absolutely.
I do like it a little bit, though, when we can actually address things in a session.
Yeah.
And be upfront, so... A little bit of everything.
That's great. And sometimes it takes a little bit to find someone you like. Like, I know for me, I went to a couple people, like, once or twice.
Do you go in person?
So I'm trying to get back to one now that I'm in New York. I don't like anything virtual. Nothing virtual resonates with me.
Dude.
Whether it's virtual meditation, virtual yoga, if it's virtual, nothing.
I'm way too ADD.
Nothing out of it. Yeah. So I need to find someone in person. If you got the hookup in New York, maybe I'll.
I got a plug. I always got a plug.
Yeah.
I go in person as well.
My favorite person was very intense and in person, and that's how I like it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna hit me any other way.
I go full Tony Soprano vibes.
Yeah.
Daddy's got to be on the couch, letting it air out.
Yeah.
I got to be in the room.
I want it to be like. Did you ever watch Monk?
I do know the show. It used to be on in the mornings before school.
Yes, it was big USA show. If it is not like Monk, if I'm not feeling like I'm in an episode of that show,
Yeah.
Is it working?
Yeah, I need to be in the room. I'm incredibly ADD, addicted to my phone. Brain's constantly moving, where if I was on a virtual session, not to discredit virtual sessions again, if that's something you're able to do it. If you feel comfortable with it, do it. But I need to be there.
Yeah.
Even with this podcast, if we did this as a telephone call, I'd be walking around my house right now touching stuff. Not fully engaged.
That's what I'll never do a virtual episode of this because it just doesn't hit the same. I struggle to work from home. I'm not doing virtual meditation. Therapy virtual just sounds like a waste of either money, insurance, all of the above.
Dude, shout out. I love shout outs. Shout out Noah, my roommate. If I did virtual therapy, my man would have moved out 10 months ago with all the crazy stuff I'd be spewing. And then you're not able, the whole conversation is vulnerability, right? Like that's the big buzzword that comes out. And for me to be in a session where I know it's me and this person, that's the only way I'm gonna dive deep. If I'm at my house, other people in the house, even neighbors above me, like I'm way too anxious to do it virtually. So yeah, I think in person it is
really everything. And I think we got to see during COVID the disasters of not in person things, whereas like I need to be conversating with humans in real life every single day.
Dude, I'm a social bird, and I'm also like an in-person learner. I can't, as we were talking about, the whole YouTube tutorial route. Like,
absolutely.
I need to be seeing things happen. I need to be touching. I need to be in person, and that applies to Full Circle music or my sessions with Rachel. I gotta be there.
I had a job where we had training online. I'm sorry.
Quit that job.
I did. I lasted very short period.
Fuck that job.
I did not last. Learned nothing from the training, unfortunately. Then got a job in person. Training was in person. I was like, we're living now.
Yeah, dude. Life is made to be lived. Not to sound super corny.
Not to be on the phone, you youngins.
Although, dude, I'm so bad. My phone, what's your screen time? Do you know your phone's screen time?
I don't know.
Dude, mine's bad.
It's not going to be good. I feel a personal sense of accomplishment when you get the little notification that your screen time was less than last week. I'm like,
dude,
God.
Even if it's 3% less, well, mine's bad. I think I'm like 10 hours plus.
Yeah.
I'm like 10, 12 some days.
Oh, God.
So yeah, if mine's going down, I'm
Yeah,
psyched.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm a hero.
Yeah, dude, so bad. I have like coworkers who are on their phone for 3 hours for their screen time, and I'll have
That's
one
cool.
app like where it's like that. It's so bad.
Wow.
It's so bad.
Yeah, well.
So I
yeah,
thank
can
you and the
only
pod
keep it-
and therapy for cutting out my phone time for a guaranteed hour and a minute here.
That's golden.
Yeah.
Golden, you're welcome.
Thank you.
But just thank you for coming on the show and getting real with us. It was a pleasure. Got to have some laughs and take on some more subtle mental health issues that I think when not being treated and not facing that are really going to overall impact your mental health very negatively. So.
Dude, thank you for having me on. This is super cool. Hopefully the people at home were able to get something from this. Also, shout out again. Love that phrase. If there's a synonym, if somebody knows a synonym for shout out, let me know.
I don't think anything's gonna match. Like nothing's gonna hit the same.
All of your previous guests. I've listened to a bunch of the episodes. Great stories. Great stuff going on. A lot of stuff to learn. I've already connected with some of them on Instagram. So those of you who might be tuning in just this episode should definitely circle back on some of the other ones.
For sure.
Big shout out, Matt Fumo.
You need
Amazing
to
story.
just do like an Oscar speech, honestly. Instead
I
of,
deserve
like,
an Oscar.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
Okay, right now, closing. You just won an Oscar speech. Who are you thanking?
Christ.
A Grammy. I'm saying Oscar as you do.
Who am I thanking?
Yes.
First, I am going to thank my mom, my brother,
No,
family always first.
Before, like, do it like you just won.
So this is live action.
Yeah, this is live. Like, this is your speech. You're on the stage. The music is playing.
Yo, how we doing out there? Oh, crowd's going nuts. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. First and foremost, I would just like to thank Joni, my mom. You are the GOAT. You are the best. You are so nice. You've supported me through all of my craziness. Also, big shout out my brother, the freaking gnarliest dude on the planet, also backing me through everything. Friends, family. Fuck. I don't know. Do you write your speech? I'm going to write it. I got to write it.
I don't know if I'd write it. That was good.
I only said 3 people.
I mean, sometimes less is more.
What do we think in the back? Was that good?
That was good.
All right.
Less is more sometimes, but I thought it was good. I thought that was very real. So thank you for coming
real.
on and getting real. Thanks for tuning in and getting real with us. Podcast will be posted every other Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube. Please reach out via DM if you want to chat.